Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
It's time for another episode of Dungeons & Dragons Monsters. This time the Vargouille. Are they D&D's deadliest?
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we're going to be delving into the Volo's guide to talk about the Vargouille. If you want your copy of our Volo's guide and don't have one yet, jump down the description where you can find a link to Amazon for Volo's guide.
So they can be found on page 195.
And before we really get into it and start describing these monsters, we're going to bring in an expert on D&D's deadliest. Take it away, Locrius.
Fluttering through the lower planes is a demonic creature with a nightmarish method of self-replication. A torturous demise shall befall the forsaken fool who falls victim to the Vargouille.
Thanks, Locrius. Appreciate that. The Vargouille is a vile, disgusting monster, and they're only a CR1, but man, we've kind of gone over these guys a little bit in other videos, but you know, aside from their freakish appearance, you know, being basically a vampire head with bat wings, one of the things that kind of strikes me about their appearance is I almost think undead. And so did my players when I used it, but they're actually fiends. They don't have very many hit points. They're easy to hit. You know, they can't really move very well without flying, and their stats aren't like uber.
But if they manage to, getting close, god awful horrors can befall those that become their victims.
Yeah, so like the thing about these guys, one, they're just disconcerting. They have damage resistance, cold, fire, lightning, immune to poison, immune to the poison condition. They hit hard. They only have a +4 to hit, but they do a D6 piercing damage, not so bad.
And 3d6 poison.
And 3d6 poison. No saving throw or anything. You just take the poison damage.
So, that is enough to fell many first level characters.
Yeah.
So
this is not a threat to use against a first level party, I don't think.
Unless you're really looking for a high fatality game.
Right, where you're probably going to drop one. There's a good possibility you're going to drop one of the players. I mean, then this thing's probably going to explode pretty much. But that being said, they have this stunning streak. They scream at you. The DC isn't very high. It's only a DC 12. But if you fail it, you're stunned.
But it's also charisma, which unless you're, bard, sorcerer, or warlock, it's not going to be one of your high stats. It could even be your dumb stats for the people who are designed the best to bring these guys down.
Yeah, so those are real concerns, real possibilities. And there is actually something a little bit worse about the fact that if they stun you, because then you're incapacitated. And that's when the Vargouille's magic really comes to life and shines. What is that in the air? Maybe a little amore? I don't know. But once they get you incapacitated, they're in the mood, right?
They want to give you a kiss.
They're going to want to give you a kiss. And then their kiss, it's a charisma save. And if you fail it, nothing bad happens immediately.
Yeah, it's like, you get a little bit of a rash.
But, as time goes on, you kind of get uglier and uglier, and your face takes on the appearance of a demon or a devil.
It gets warped. It gets twisted.
Your charisma goes down.
Oh.
By one, every hour, unless you're in sunlight or something. But when the real magic happens when you hit the number 2, and your head literally pops off, bat wings shoot out of your ears, and you are now a Vargouille.
When the cursed target's charisma becomes 2, it dies and its head tears from its body and becomes a new Vargouille. Casting Remove Curse, Greater Restoration, or a similar spell on the target before the transformation is complete ends the curse. Doing so undoes the change made to the target by the curse.
Now, the weakest spell that will help you with this is Remove Curse. So, that's still a 3rd level spell, I think. So if you're under 5th level, your party doesn't even have access to that. You're gonna have to figure out something, and depending on how ugly you started out, you're gonna have to figure it out
quick,
fast. So I guess the real question is, as always, what are some ways to use this? And I think we know a guy that might have just some creative uses for it. Take it away, Locrius.
Dungeon masters can use these free-floating flesh mullets anywhere dark forces are at work. And of course the abyssal planes themselves, I hear they're lovely this time of year. What if your players get word that a beloved NPC has come down with an unknown affliction? Think of the horror they'll feel as you describe the head of their former friend, now weird and twisted, ripping from its body in a geyser of blood. Crush their dreams! Or what if a dying wizard afflicts himself with the Vargouille's kiss? Using the magic jaw spell, he transfers his soul back to his body just as he dies, becoming a Vargouille with the soul of an archmage!
Thanks, man. Those are some awesome uses, and some of them pretty terrifying to use in your game. But there's some other cool things that can be done. These guys offer a significant threat, maybe not, mechanically in combat, but just in the sheer ability of what they can do even to later level parties.
They're scary. I've used them. They're scary.
Because it says in the Volo's guide that if you summon a demonic creature, they could come with as like a parasite. So these things could come unbidden into the world, and they're looking to just reproduce. They're looking to just gather more numbers. So like
they're lovers, not fighters.
So like it could be very easy to be like, okay, well, you've got a fiendish, sorcerer or wizard who's likes summoning creatures, and unbeknownst to him, these things keep sneaking in, and now there's a swarm of them flying around, and who knows, maybe there's some kind of magic circle around the wizard that's keeping him safe, so these things go off and seek elsewhere.
Hitchhikers, abyssal hitchhikers, if you would.
Indeed.
So in my game, I actually kind of introduced them as a bit of a mystery, and that was basically people were dying and showing up without their heads. And it's like whenever the crime scenes were investigated, their heads were just literally ripped off. And one of the first clues that they found was this like blood circle, on like a chimney. So it didn't make sense. One, it was like 2 stories in the air, and it's just a small circle of dried blood. And I'm like, what is that? And then eventually, like, they have someone that gets kind of brought into a drunk tank at Griffin Gaff, and they're brought in to kind of interrogate them and ask them questions, and the head pops off. It screams, stuns one of them, tries to kiss them, and they're like kind of terrified about what's going on. They don't know that they passed our save or not. It's a low DC. They rolled low. I mean, it was high enough to pass it, but they're like, oh my God. They're like, is my head going to pop off when this happens? And they're counting bodies. They're like, how many of these things are around? So now they're trying to figure out where to find them.
Did they do the math proper? Did they add the +1?
Patient 0 +1. Yeah, they absolutely did. And that's the other thing. They didn't know if only one of them showed up.
That's true.
It's however many bodies there were plus X.
Yeah, that's true.
And X could be anything. So, and as they investigated it more, they found more of those blood stumps and started figuring it out. And, it just made for a fun kind of mystery intrigue for a little bit before the final battle came. And I actually messed up. I think the battle would have been even harder, and it was still pretty hard. One of the players got dropped. Initially, in the beginning of the battle, I forgot they did poison damage. And so I ended up adding it in later with subsequent attacks. But even still, one of the players were dropped, and who knows what had happened if I had it messed up earlier in the combat.
Right.
But what are you gonna do?
So sometimes you've got quote unquote weak monsters by CR that can offer a pretty significant threat, especially if you don't allow your players to get too high of an armor class. You can use a bunch of these things, and they can be terrifying.
Well, yeah. So I have a bard and a rogue that were in that encounter. So they're not heavy armor class characters. And not only that, though, like the screeches, and when you get a bunch of them, these things screeching, this is a lot of saving throws. There's just a possibility that they're going to foul at least one
just by sheer numbers. Yeah.
Yes. So that, and then who knows? Then all of a sudden, impromptu kissing booth pops up with starring you. But yeah, these things are nasty. They hit hard. It was a lot of fun. My players were completely creeped out, and it took them a while to decide that okay, I think we're in the clear. I don't think our heads are going to pop off. So that all those factors combined to make for a really fun encounter and make for a memorable moments in my game.
So, I guess we got to ask, where did these things first appear?
I bet we should consult our
All
own
right.
sage on this one.
Take it away.
I believe the first Vargouille sighting was in first edition D&D's Monster Manual too, but that's just off the top of my head. Cause their heads come off!
Thanks, Locrius. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and there's a place where you can let us know how you feel about Vargoyles and using them in your game, if you have or not. And that's got the comments down below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time.
Stay nerdy.